You know, Angela Urumova has finally been sentenced. Now, after she falsely accused Daniel Pearson of the struggle snuggle, she was facing 17 years for that false report. That's what she could have gotten. She struck a plea, got a sentence from between 45 days up to 23 months. But either way, it's going to be served in the county jail. That's where the problem comes in. They're going to put her in the county jail, which I don't imagine to be really that comfortable, but she's pretty much in the county and not even in the big house. She's still easily accessible to all that would come and visit her, and she ain't going to even put in much time. And if things go bad for her, she's going to put in 23 months. Just a month short of 2 years. But if she's sitting up there really doing her time well and nothing else goes wrong, she could be out in 45 days. After she lied on a man for the struggle snuggle that he didn't commit by her own admission later because he looks creepy. Because he looks creepy, and she's not even a Westernisha. Look at her name, Angela Urumova. That's not a Westernisha's name, but she's been living in the States, probably born stateside. And look what kind of trouble she is. And then to make matters worse, she's chilling hard on a low sentence, and this sentence happens right after somebody else probably learned or probably had learned a lesson that was no good to teach, because we already know that young Scooter in Atlanta passed away because he fled when he wasn't even guilty to begin with, because the lady calling the cops on him lied, the sister. So when AC does say, anybody but a Keisha, I tend to say no, anybody that's not Western. At least you can give them a shot and see. But neither Keisha nor Karen should be able to get at us. I don't think so, because really, if you're born and raised in the States, you're dangerous at this point. You're dangerous to men. It's not because you have rights. It's because you have the sense of entitlement that you have the right to do anything that's wrong. And it's still within your right. And so I want to tell you gentlemen, listen, you're going to have to be very, very fearful actually dealing with them, because they want to hurt you. And this attitude is being exported to different places. We had a case where during Ramadan, a lady in Pakistan slapped one of the security guards here in Saudi Arabia, and he slapped her back twice. And everybody's debating, was he wrong or was he right? And you got women sitting up here saying, no, good on him for defending himself. That lady was fresh out of order. He didn't single her out. Nobody was allowed to go through that particular barrier that she was trying to go through to take a shortcut. And what did he do? He showed up, he let her know she couldn't, and she hit him. And now some people said that he touched her first, but security guards there don't feel comfortable doing stuff like that, because even they don't always know where the cameras are. They don't want to find out that they weren't caught on camera feeling up some lady, especially during Ramadan in daylight hours, who traveled a long ways to get there. Because see, the thing is, if you did your job and you are just following the rules, a cop does not want to be in trouble for harming somebody that's just following the rules. One police officer shot a man for waving a knife. He shot the man in the leg. He didn't kill the man. He hurt the man because the man wouldn't put the knife down. You know, that officer kept his job, but he has to serve time. And when he finishes serving the time, he goes back to his job with nothing on his record, because he didn't mean anything harmful, but the judge was like, you could have just not shot him. I'm not joking. Law enforcement here are under some restraints. Years ago, I was talking to one of the border guards. I said, man, if you catch people smuggling drugs, make sure you make sure they are dead. And the border guard said, you must want me to die, because if I just kill them, then I go to Riyadh and I'm the one that's going to be on trial for my life. Now, if they try to kill me, that's one thing. But if I catch them and they don't fight us, then they go to Riyadh, they have a trial, and they're probably going to be convicted and sentenced to death for running drugs into the kingdom. So the system here is pretty strong. And yet that security guard is probably still going to get into some trouble because he slapped her. I would have headbutted her. Anybody. If you hit me just because I'm not supposed to hit you back, whether it's because you're a guy and you're bigger or because you're a lady, I'm going to do worse than hit you. I'm going to give you nightmares about hitting anybody else that supposedly can't hit you back, taking advantage. You're going to have nightmares about that. That's what I'm going to wind up leaving you with. Hell, if someone says, man, you can't hit a woman, I might just give her a kick. I can still kick pretty high for somebody my age. I might just straight do a roundhouse kick to the head. You lose your memory, so what? Shouldn't have hit a man. If a man is up there just hitting a woman, and if I see him, he's just hitting a woman, and I know that it ain't got nothing to do with something she did. He just doing it because I'll probably do this even worse to him. I'm not playing around with folks that do stuff like that. I saw a man on Hodge pop his wife in the mouth, but he did it very lightly, and he didn't actually hurt her. He just shocked her and stunned her into silence. I could hear it, but she didn't even have any bruising. And that was one of I don't know what she was talking about, so I really don't know if she provoked him or not. I realized that the main thing I had to do was make sure that my wife was going to be all right, and she was. In case you just got a man, he just hit, and that's the thing. I haven't had to do that because I haven't actually seen dudes in real life just decide to strike a woman because they can. I ain't seen that happen. They got to be provoked or attacked. As far as I know, this one situation in Hodge is what I don't know because I didn't understand a word of their language. I don't even know what the name of the language was. That's the closest I ever saw. And there were other dudes around him and her that understood them, and they didn't jump on him, so I don't know what it was. But I am going to tell you that there is this notion, it is spreading around the world, this notion that it's just okay for women to hit dudes. That's why I look at Shahid Bolson when he starts saying that, you know what, real men do restrain themselves when women hit them. I'm like, bro, you can restrain yourself, but you still have to give her nightmares about hitting men outside of self-defense or to protect someone else. You got to get the nightmares about hitting men just because they're angry and emotional. And that's even if they're mentally ill, because even crazy can understand pain. He showed a video from years ago in which a lady in India is hitting a man in India. And that case got famous. People in India knew who she was. Her feet were leaving the ground as she hit him. He didn't hit her back. He could have at least leaned down, picked the legs out from under her, thrown her back, and then walked off. She would have had nightmares about doing this to some other dude. That woman probably is doing the same thing. And unfortunately, you got something like this happening, even during Ramadan. I found out about it 2 days ago. I heard about it, but I was like, wait, what? I didn't know much about it. Then I saw the video. That security guard popped her twice. He picked his hand up and popped her twice. But I know one thing about Saudi men. These dudes don't even touch women like that. So they don't have this notion of, you hit a woman because you want to, or because you're mad, or because you're a guy and they're a girl and you can just do that. They don't have that kind of notion. These ladies that are developing these notions that they can talk to any men the way they want to, and that men are crap, and that's not really Saudi women like that. But it was a Pakistani man in the comment section that said, this woman, we can identify that this woman is from this particular tribe, and they generally act like this. Now, if that was the case, you'd see more cases like this. But the point is that we do have this exporting of the idea around the world that if a woman hits a man, so mother cuss word what? Well, you can't do that in societies in which the men and women are both told not to touch each other. Pakistan being one of them. And where I live, that's what we've been told. You don't touch each other. Don't put your hands on each other. You can be nice to each other, polite. You're allowed to speak, but you even watch what you say. Both. That goes for both sides. And that's one of the rules that's been revealed. But in this country here, where they would never stop me and say to me, hey, listen, would you like to talk to my dad? You know what that means. In this country where they don't do that, you think we're going to let them turn around and hit us too? There are things here that they don't initiate. So we're not going to let them initiate violence either. I'm saying this as an expat who's not even a citizen here. I don't allow that. We don't tolerate that. But this is being exported. In the States, it's make a false phone call, make a false accusation. Here, that sort of thing exists, but it's not as common. You don't hear about it in the news as often. But there's still this idea of you hit. And you know what it used to be on TV, that you could just hit men. On TV, the violence from women against men was minimized and comedized. And that's not really a word, but it was made to appear as comedy. And as that was made to appear such, nobody really thought, I mean, even guys were desensitized to it. And that's the problem. And now, what has it gone to? Well, since that doesn't seem to work and these men are desensitized to it, let me go ahead and introduce another form of violence, which is through the police. And if you desensitize these men over here to this notion, and you desensitize the men in Pakistan to this notion, and you desensitize the men in these other nations to this notion, and then all of a sudden it doesn't mean much when a woman hits a man, then what's going to wind up happening is they're going to escalate. They're going to step it up. They're going to say, well, okay, that doesn't really mean much. So what's next? Oh, well, let me make a false phone call. That's what you're looking at. Is that what you want, gentlemen? Because I don't want that for you. But is that what you want for yourselves? I said before, this is why I've been saying to you, we must get ahead of these things and let these men in other places know for the what it is. If the U.S. and Canada and Australia and New Zealand and Israel and Spain are far, if they're further gone in their misandry than these more traditional countries of the world, then let these men of these traditional nations of the world know for the what it is. We got the internet. We've got Google Translate. We can let these dudes know what's going on before they completely lose power. Because for the most part, how did men over here lose power? Well, there were two, well, not over here where I am, but over there where you are, where I used to be, where I was born, where I was raised, where I grew up. Well, I only left about 11 years back. Let me tell you how it was that the power was lost. There were two ways it was lost. Number one, it was lost through partially was lost through legislation, but that required marriage. And that was legislation passed by these simp dads who made up the top class in their states. And they didn't want their divorcee daughters to be financial burdens to them after having been married, because back then they pretty much knew if she's married, she has a very low chance of if she's a divorcee, she's got a very low chance of marrying again. I might have to take care of her the rest of my life. So let's go ahead and pass these laws that stick that support on the ex-husband even after he loses all rights. And since these chicks, since their daughters were the spoiled ones, they were the most likely to need that. So that was the first way. But the second way was through a slow, creeping desensitization and advancement of misandric ideas. That was the other way. Bit by bit, inch by inch, introduce notions that it's okay because it's okay to do this to men simply because. At the same time, taking the power and the authority away that comes with manhood. And so then you wound up with an unfair arrangement in which men can be blamed, but they don't have the authority to prevent the things for which they're blamed, and which men can be blamed when they're actually innocent in front of the police, and in which men can really seriously, truly be injured by false accusations and nothing happens. Or if it does, it's not enough. And in which now you got young guys who'd rather stay their butts indoors and probably have an alibi that they didn't do anything. Because if they get out and there are enough broads around, and these broads don't like these guys, and these guys look creepy and they look thirsty, then these broads are going to sit up here and they're going to make a determination. I'm calling the cops on him because he looks creepy. I can think of something. False accusations are just abounding. Rhoda Usman is just one example. We've got to get in touch with these dudes from elsewhere and let them know what the deal is. Because you see, notice Rhoda Usman did not try this with men of her own community. One, she ain't in with her community no more. She's not with them. She can't be around them. Two, they would be able to find out, and they probably could still find out who her, if she had blamed some men from her own community, the community would have found out who her people are, who her family is. The family probably would have said, oh, we've been cut her off a long time ago. She apostatized, had a kid out of wedlock. So the community would have known she's a lying cuss word. Now, who did she do this to? She did this to a man she thought was ADOS. And people thought she was ADOS too. Turns out she did it to a Haitian man. But imagine if we were telling these other men, imagine if we were telling the Colombians and telling the Brazilian men and telling the Peruvian men and telling the Indonesian men and the Thai men and the men from the Philippines what the hell they're doing over there where you live now, where most of you are listening to me from. Imagine if we let them know what the hell it was where you are so that they would know how to recognize these patterns when these patterns start to develop where they live, where you would like to live later on. Because you could be talking to somebody that's going to be a legislator in a decade. You could be talking to someone that's going to be a judge in a decade. You could tell them today, and it'd probably take them a long time to become one of these things, but they may wind up being a Supreme Court judge in their home country. They may wind up being an advisor to legislators, even better. But we, and our focus, we have not focused on maintaining the environment's favorable traits, even though we are making plans to move into these environments and working and sacrificing to be able to do it. Well, guess what? If the environment is suitable now, you want to make sure that you have something in place to where you're keeping the favorable elements of that environment in the environment, so that when you finally succeed in getting what it takes to get there and move there and stay there legally, it's not a different environment from the one to which you were trying to go. You think Ethiopia now is the same as it was 20 years ago? Its big cities certainly are not. Hell, its medium cities are not. It's not the same. You think 20 years ago the airport signs in Addis Ababa were in English, Amharic, and Chinese? No, they weren't. Saudi now is not the same as it was 6 years ago, 7 years ago. I just heard a rumor on YouTube that really blew my mind. Like, I can't believe it. I heard something about Bahrain that might not be true. But the fact that a rumor could comfortably be placed on YouTube about Saudi and Bahrain at the same time, that this particular rumor is still indicative of a change, a major change. That's the whole point. And as more and more is brought in, and less is filtered out, you're going to see exactly what it is that drove us out of the West appear in the very places in which we will land. And that's really going to be depressing. It's going to be so depressing that the awareness of that is going to need a new name other than the black pill. And I don't see why the black pill has to be associated with such a depressing view anyway. But it's going to be worse than that. And then the next generation of guys are going to grow up saying, oh, it's nature. That's why you find it everywhere. No, some of it is and some of it's not. Anyway, in light of Angela Urumova sentencing and the false accusation costing young Scooter his life, let me go ahead and say that I hope that this helps. And I don't think we should be up here debating in front of anybody else about young Scooter. Or was he wrong for running, or was she wrong because she made a false phone call? If he had not run, if he had not wounded himself fatally, I don't think we would have found out that she made everything up. At least not this early. That's the downside to it. That's what it took in order to find out that she made all of this up. Don't forget April Mason's cousin. We don't even have an update on that. What happened to her? Did she get sentenced? What's the update? You all tell me. Hope that this helps, and thank you for listening. As always, Black Heart, Black Mind, Black Out, Assalamu Alaikum, Black Heterosexual, not select male power because they don't like it, and Black Patriarchy until extinction of Judgment Day. Thank you for flying with us here in Jet Black Air, where the phrase Jet Black is also a verb. Keep Jet Black with us till the wings and the wheels fall off. Gender justice forever.